Hello and welcome to the Providence College Podcast. I'm your host, Liz Kay, and I'm joined by producer Chris Judge of the class of 2005. Here at the Providence College Podcast, we bring you interesting stories from the Friar family. This week, we're speaking with Madeleine Veith, the class of 2016. In July, Madeleine finished her second year as a missionary with Christ in the City in Denver, Colorado. In the fall, she's pursuing a master's degree in social work at the University of Denver. Madeleine, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about Christ in the City for people who aren't familiar with it?
Absolutely. So Christ in the City is a formation service program based in Denver, Colorado. There are 25 to 35 young adult missionaries. So young adults from ages 18 to 27 who give up a year or two of their lives to serve the poor. The mission of Christ in the City is to know, love, and serve the poor. So on a very tangible level, we befriend the chronicle homeless population in downtown Denver. And we work to engage the community, to introduce them to our friends on the street, which is how we refer to the homeless. And we just build friendships with them and relationships with them. And because it's a formation program, we also receive training, and it's a Catholic organization, so it's rooted in a daily prayer life. And with all of this, we live and work and serve, and it's a tremendous joy.
Wow. Can you tell us what led you to decide to join as a missionary yourself?
Absolutely. So I'd known about Christ in the City since I was in high school. There was a connection where I had met some people who had served back then. And then when I was finishing up my sophomore year at Providence, one of my friends, who's a fellow alum of Providence, ended up starting at Christ in the City. So my junior and senior years at Providence, we would call every few months, and she would just share a lot about Christ in the City and the work she was doing. And right after I graduated, I ended up visiting her, and I had an incredible time, but didn't think I'd actually end up moving there. But about 6 months later, I started the application process and started at Christ in the City in August of 2017.
So walk us through a typical day working with your friends.
Sure. So every day is a little bit different. So I can tell you what the schedule is often intended to be, but we are often subject to being available to what the mission needs. Mm-hmm. We would wake up and go to morning prayer, which is Liturgy of the Hours at 6:30 in the morning. We have a chapel in the house, which was a huge gift. After morning prayer, there'd be about an hour of silent prayer time. Then breakfast at 8 a.m., which would be prepared by a team of 4 missionaries. Then at about 9 a.m., we would go to the streets. So everyone walks in a team of 2 to 4 missionaries. There's always a guy in a group, and we go to a pre-designated sort of street route. So I walked around kind of the capital area of downtown Denver, and we would go and just get to, in the beginning, it's just building relationships. Some of the staff or missionaries who were second years would introduce you to their current friends, and then you would just build relationships with them. So by a few months in, you're just going out to meet new people, but also to reconnect with your friends. At usually around 12:15 p.m., we would go to daily mass, and then go back to the house to eat lunch at about 1 or 1:30. And then at 2 p.m., we either would have office hours. So missionaries have different jobs within the office. Some of it was preparing for mission trips, or working with the community, or helping with things in-house, or we would receive trainings. At 4 p.m., we would get some free time almost every day. At 5:30, we would have dinner prepared by 4 members of the community. And then each night of the week, we had something else. Sometimes it was deep clean night. Other nights, it was doing night ministry, so working with a homeless shelter or another organization, or doing a street walk at night, which we called night walks. And every night at 9 p.m., we would have Liturgy of the Hours again with night prayer. And then at about 9:20, 9:30, you were done for the day. So you could go to bed, you could talk to people. Sometimes people would go out to do something, but usually that was kind of when the day wrapped up. And that was our schedule, usually Monday through Friday.
Part of the commitment to Christ in the City is living in community.
Mm-hmm.
How does that add to the experience, the the experience of living in prayer and in service?
I think it's what makes it possible. I I really appreciate the commitment of it and the intentionality of being community. I think that because we are like living and working and praying together and playing, we have a ton of fun. It really it gave us the support we needed to be able to go out and support others. So your teams become a little nucleus of community who you rely on, who you go to when your friends on the street aren't doing well, but also maybe when you aren't doing well. And I think that, I mean, if we have so many faithful volunteers who are we are so grateful for and who keep our mission going. But I think that if we weren't fully immersed in this, we wouldn't be able to give to our friends in the same capacity, and we wouldn't be able to receive in the same capacity.
What was your role in terms of your office jobs and things? What was your role in your first year, and how's that changed in your second year?
Sure. So my first year, I was in charge of women's ministry with another missionary. So we led a women's group at a shelter downtown, and we were just more intentional about befriending women on the streets. It was a good office job. I think I dived more into it my second year. Second year, you're on the street one day less a week, but you are able to have more responsibility in the office and furthering the mission. So my second year, I was in charge of community outreach, and I ended up kind of being a mentor and spearheading some things for the women's ministry as well. So my second year, we coordinated and created a retreat for our friends on the street for the women, which was a really cool experience. We got some local organizations involved, and we put on a day retreat for. We could have had up to 35 women and 10 children, but the retreat was an entire success with the 3 women that came. And it was a gift to be able to facilitate everything for those 3 women. So we do different things. Some That was kind of what I focused on a lot this last year, was preparing the retreat and then doing follow up from it.
And with the goal of the street teams to build relationships, what does that look like? And you're just striking up conversations? Are you helping people with their day-to-day needs? Are you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of depends on what your route is, who your friends are, what your team is. But for the most part, it's just going up to someone and saying, "Hi, my name is Madeline. What's your name?" And then getting to know them, getting to know their story. With some of our friends, my route specifically, a lot of our friends were very irresponsible when it came to health concerns. I studied health policy and management at Providence, and a lot of my internships throughout college were very based in social work in nature, even if it was in the medical field. And so I really know and understand the healthcare system, especially hospital processes. So that became a huge gift when I was consistently taking my friends to the ER or to clinics to coordinate their care, help them figure out Medicare or Medicaid. And so my team most often was accompanying our friends to hospital visits or just sitting on the sidewalk and shooting the breeze, catching up, telling stories, laughing. Sometimes we would take them out to meals or to coffee. We get gift cards donated, which allows us to take our friends out to something. But for the most part, yeah, it was just conversation, asking them what they cared about, asking the previous jobs, or sharing with them what was going on with our lives. I think with some friends, especially, it became a very mutual relationship of just catching up like you would with any friend.
What would you say tended to be the causes or the reasons why your friends were chronically homeless?
It depends. Some of my friends came from histories of abuse. Some have issues with addiction. A lot of them had broken relationships with family members. And sometimes it could be attributed to mental illness. Sometimes it could be attributed to stubbornness. I have a few friends who just didn't want to tell their families that they were homeless. And they knew that once they did, their families would take them off the streets, but they just didn't want to admit that they were homeless at that time. But even still, some, it was through no fault of theirs. I know one guy who helped all of his kids through college, helped his wife with breast cancer treatment, And by the end of it, he didn't have any more money. So he was on the streets. Others, yeah, run into health concerns or that sort of thing. But usually it's compounding of a few things. Like you become ill and then you can't make rent and then you lose your house. And then because you don't have your house and you have a health concern, you lose your job or some other thing. But usually there's a few factors that are plugging in at once.
It doesn't sound like your goal was to try to address, as a missionary, was to try to solve that problem, to get people
No,
off the street.
we didn't. Our mission's never to fix. So the mission to know, love, and serve comes exactly in that order. So first, get to know someone because you can't love who you don't know. And then, as you love them and build a relationship with them, you may offer services, but that is never the end goal. We serve a weekly lunch every Wednesday and second Saturday of the month, which I guess would be a more tangible service offered. But besides that, it's we have a lot of connections with agencies in the area. So we know who to go to if you are looking for housing, who to go to if you're looking for showers. But we aren't fixing anything. And I think it's that brings a lot of freedom because a lot of our friends are used to transactional relationships. So I'm going to talk to you with the end goal of getting you into a house, or I'm going to talk to you with the end goal of making sure that you want to get a job by the end of it. And I've seen in a lot of our friends that by being shown the dignity of just a mutual relationship and a respectful relationship, that some of the times they desire it for themselves and they know that we will accompany them in it. So I've had a lot of friends in the last year, especially who started to be getting into housing, which is a huge gift. But sometimes they don't get to stay in housing for one reason or another. So it's very much making sure that they know that our relationship isn't based on what they accomplish, but rather just that we rejoice in who they are and are grateful for their friendships.
Just that their innate life has value in and of itself.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that the friends grew as they built relationships with you and the other missionaries. Can you talk a little bit about how you may have grown in this 2-year experience?
Christ in the City has a really cool mission within the formation to essentially help you to become more human. So, what that looks like is to, especially in community, to see when you are really good at something, but also maybe when you are lacking, to see how you need to grow, but also they are so quick to tell you how you have grown. I think that for me, particularly, Christ in the City has helped me be gentler and kinder with others and with myself. I think that it has helped me to see gifts and skills that I had that I maybe wouldn't have acted on as naturally, and also gave me a confidence to work with pretty much anyone and to receive where people are without the intention of fixing them.
What are some of those skills that you feel like you didn't realize you had?
Well, I realized in creating the retreat for our friends on the street that I had a great gift for organizing and leadership. I had coordinated for I was the logistics coordinator for Connections my senior year of college, and I coordinated events, and I loved it, and I think both were very successful. But I think I forgot about that after graduating, and it was really cool. I visited Providence this past February, a few weeks before the retreat for my friends on the street, just to meet students and to share about Christ in the City. And I forgot how these gifts came alive in within campus ministry and to see how they were coming alive for our friends of the street at Christ in the City. I There was just an intentionality and a foresight that I didn't realize I had because I hadn't put it into practice for a while.
Madeleine, as you look back on your college experience even further, was there anything else that helped lead you down this path?
Providence College was such a just the education and the experience as a student was so fruitful. I loved to learn. And I don't think I realized how much I loved service until looking back at my time at Providence, I started my freshman year doing FaithWorks, which is a service immersion program. And some of my friends from FaithWorks are still some of my closest friends today. But through my time at Providence, my internships, and my volunteering experience, I learned that I was very interested in, I think, more difficult populations to work with. I interned with refugees one summer. My internship, my field experience through HPM was at Butler Hospital, which is a psychiatric hospital. And my sophomore year of college, I volunteered at prison for the year, which were all such cool experiences. And I think that each of them showed me that I had a heart for populations that maybe weren't as popular with other people. And through my studies and what I was involved in, I think I just realized that this is kind of where I came alive, was loving people who needed to be received and who weren't always mm, to love people who weren't always like actively pursued and cared for well.
And so Christ in the Cities helped you realize that. It sounds like Christ in the Cities helped you realize that sort of purpose in your life.
It has. I think it grounded me and also taught me how the most important thing to do when meeting someone is to just to love them and to receive.
So tell us about your next path in terms of, tell us a little bit about your master's degree and what you hope to achieve.
Sure. So I will be getting my master's in social work from the University of Denver starting this September. And I'm really excited to learn. I think ever since college, I've been told by friends, mentors, and professors that I would end up pursuing a degree in social work. But I was in denial, so I didn't believe them. But I think after graduating from college, I realized that I had a heart for social work and I needed the theories and the practices and the degree in order to pursue that line of work. So I'm really excited to get back into the classroom, a little bit nervous, but very excited to just learn and to learn what I need to implement the best care for the person in front of me. I hope to do counseling at some point. So to offer counseling to, I don't know if it'll be adults or children or what yet. And then I really want to do medical social work, at least at some point. I think with my background in HPM and my love for the healthcare system, especially hospitals, that would be a really cool experience.
What are some other careers that or vocations that people pursue after Christ in the City?
Sure. We have a few guys that are entering seminary or religious orders, which is really cool. I think there have been alumni in the past who have entered different orders as sisters as well. Then some pursue social work. We have some engineers. Some are working in HR or in different companies. I know one alumni who is a flight instructor now. It's varied. One of the guys I served with my first year, he had graduated with his master's in architecture and just needed a break for a year. So he served with Christ in the City for the year, and now he's an architect in Denver.
So did you request to be placed in Denver? It's someone originally from the East Coast. You're originally from Connecticut. I'm wondering what that transition was like.
Sure. It was funny to go to Denver. I think that I definitely miss the ocean and the beaches. Denver is very landlocked, but the mountains are beautiful. You can see the mountains from downtown Denver, which is a beautiful and crazy thing. It was definitely just a little bit of a cultural difference. There's a lot of people from Nebraska and California and the Midwest, which is a little bit different pace than New England. But I think that it helped me to mellow out. And once I kind of got accustomed to the different ways that people communicate, it's been a huge joy.
I think people underestimate that how different, how communication varies even within our own country.
Absolutely.
And have you been able to connect with any fellow friars out in the Denver area?
I have a few friends who are out in Denver. So my friend who did Christ in the City when I was in college, she's still out there. So I see her every few weeks. And then when I am meeting, I just met up with coffee with another alum recently, but I'm hoping to get more plugged into the Denver alumni network now that I have a little bit more free time on my hands.
Yeah, your days were definitely pretty prescribed as a missionary.
Pretty full.
It seems funny to think that you'll have more time as a grad student, but
yeah, it might be wishful thinking.
Well, Madeleine, it was lovely to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Subscribe to the Providence College podcast in all the usual places, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, and our newest platform, Spotify. If you like what you hear, please review and share with others. Thanks for listening, and go Friars.